Yo, Sean, what it do, baby?
What's good, man?
Hey, well, today is August 1st, 2023. It's 8:05, 5 minutes late, CPT. I love it. Um, but yeah, man, how you doing, bro?
Doing great, man. It was an exciting weekend, man. I felt like it's been a minute since I could turn on my TV and say, you know what, I'm excited to watch some fights, Mark. So it was a treat this weekend. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, man. This weekend was interesting. This is this is the first time that this is the first time I've seen the country excited about a boxing match that didn't involve Floyd Mayweather. Yeah, just in
Well,
general. Like where the entire everybody everywhere is talking about was talking about this match. Let me put it like this. Outside of the circus matches like the Mike Tyson versus
well, you could bring up yeah, it has been a minute since Tyson Fury and what's his name fought, right?
yeah, Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, it has been
But
a
even
minute.
that, I felt like this had more fanfare than even that fight. I feel
I'll
like
give you that. Let me compare it then. I felt like the fanfare was close to the Triple G Canelo fight. The
yeah, like
first, maybe,
yeah, like
yeah,
I feel like people were just excited to see this fight for some reason.
yeah, yeah,
Well, not
absolutely.
for some reason. It was supposed to be an exciting fight, but I just feel like everybody wanted to see this fight this weekend. But you
Mhm.
know what I mean? They had uh they had the boxing match in UFC, and UFC and boxing came head to head in the pay per view night. Bo- Boxing and UFC both had a pay per view on the same night, and seems like this was your Kanye versus 50 Cent.
Album release, album release beef. You know what I'm saying? I'll be honest, man. I'm no bullshit. I was upset in the beginning. I'm like, yo, why did? And I'm like looking at the times as they lining up because you can read the times online. It don't mean nothing until the events actually start. So
Right.
everything got going, and then I'm kind of picking up when the boxing match is going to start, and I'm like, man, so this joint going to start right at the beginning of the Pereira Blackwood's fight, and I'm like, it's kind of trash because I want to see that, right? And then so like I'm flipping between the middle and the end of that fight and going into the entrances and all that stuff for the boxing match, and then you had the
No,
main event for
it,
the you had the main. I thought the boxing match was going to end before the main event started, like the BMF title fight was going to start, and it kind of started before the end of the boxing match. So I was like,
to me,
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe my thing was delayed, but it lined up perfectly. Like they were just starting. Like right when it ended. Like I didn't watch none of the like them talking afterwards. As soon as that shit ended, I went to UFC 291.
yeah.
Like
It wasn't. It hadn't started for long, but it did start while I was still watching.
yeah,
But
and they
but
were
it's
about to knuckle up and get ready to get going. I was like, that's perfect
but maybe
timing.
that's my fault. I was watching the side by side re up. Well, I was watching the not side by side. I was watching the post fight stuff.
Yeah, I
You know,
wasn't watching none of that post fight stuff. I went
yeah, but
straight into the drum.
yeah, but either
And
way, before I was upset, but then once everything was happening, I was just excited. I was able to see a bunch of fights that I was interested in, not just on the UFC side, but the boxing match. I obviously was interested in, and I could see everything in one night. I at that point I didn't care that the stuff might have been overlapping. Like, to be honest with you.
well, let's talk about that real quick. The UFC 291. Hey, what up, whoever that is watching? Um, um, but
Yeah.
but yeah, let's talk about that real quick. UFC 291. Any what fight stood out to you? Just before we even talk about it, like what fight stood out to you?
Um, I was there. Let's be honest. I was there for a few fights, but Green beating Tony Ferguson is probably the one that stood out the most to me. Um, Maybe it wasn't the biggest fight, but Tony Ferguson has now lost 6 in a row. And it feels like just yesterday where we were talking about Tony Ferguson, in the Khabib fights falling through twice, and that was a fight that everybody wanted to see, to now Tony Ferguson being the UFC's punching bag. So like I think last night fight with him losing to Green is definitely was the one that stood out to me, because it's a sad day, but it looks like the end of an era, Mark. It looks like I think Tony Ferguson needs to hang it up, man. It's time.
Hey, man, you say that. Tony said he's not. Like, directly, Tony has already said that he's not hanging it up. And he said that the eye poke that happened in the match affected him more than what people may think or whatever. So he's essentially blaming the loss on the eye poke.
Well, not only did he blame the loss on the eye poke, but he said he thought it was intentional. So
right.
He thought it was a deliberate eye poke. Here's my deal. Eye poke or no eye poke. He was in a fight. He wasn't out there dominating Green before the eye poke. Like, he was in a fight. And to me, like I said, the bigger story here is he's just been losing. He was on a 5-fight losing streak going into this. The only reason why he's still around and getting fights is because he's Tony Ferguson. And then even if he would have won this fight, Mark, him dogging, like going back and forth with Green would have been enough for me to still look at it and say, like, what happened to Tony Ferguson? People wanted to see Tony Ferguson fight Khabib more than they wanted to see Conor McGregor fight Khabib again.
Yeah, that's fair.
And now he's in dog fights with Green. That was my takeaway from the fight. Like I said, it wouldn't have mattered if he won or not, eye poke or not eye poke. That's
good. I understand. But after that fight, there was the Derek Lewis. For me, the Derek Lewis fight that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Derek Lewis coming out with a flying knee, and just obviously taking over, ending the fight very quickly with that flying knee. Nice to see a heavyweight. Come out with the acrobatics, so to speak.
Yeah. You know what's funny, Mark? I want to speak on that because I don't know if you saw the weigh-ins and none of that stuff in the face-offs, and I've never seen what an in-shape Derek Lewis looked like before. And apparently he's in the best shape of his life. I mean, don't get it twisted. He still looked like Derek Lewis, but the man, the bear belly ain't there no more. Like, he actually looked like he'd taken care of himself, Mark. You know what I think, man? I think he was excited about his weight loss and everything. He's like, man, I've been training. You know what? I'm gonna do something crazy. I'm gonna try to end this with a flying kick.
When you have a little less weight, those knees, they be like, oh, I could do something.
Yeah. He's like, I think I can pull off a flying knee. I think I'm gonna try it today. Like, honestly, I'm sure when you were going into this, you weren't like, I'm expecting to see a flying knee in the Derek Lewis fight. Like, I'm sure that's not what you think when you're going into this. Like, but this is what I mean by, like, the UFC event was actually a dope event to me.
It was a dope event. And before we go any further with anything, we talked about it offline already, but this didn't feel like it needed to be a pay-per-view. Like, there was no belt, there was no real belts on the line. It's a made-up BMF belt on the line tonight, and the only reason why they got this made-up belt is so they can have an excuse to have pay-per-views. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this wasn't this was something that they could have made available on ESPN and to grow the sport or some shit. Like, this wasn't something that needed to be a pay-per-view.
Yeah, so this is what I'll say. First off, I gotta address you calling the BMF belt a fake belt, like a fake
title
belt. They said it's a title. It's a title fight. Mark, they got in the ring and the fight was set for 5 rounds. How are you going to tell me that it's not a title fight? You know what I'm saying? It's set for 5 rounds. Only title fights are 5 rounds.
What are they the champion of?
They get the title of baddest motherfucker in the UFC. Like
what's the weight classes for BMF?
There ain't no weight class. I don't know what the weight.
Help me understand. Like, what does it qualify for?
You the champ or something.
But what does it qualify for? They get like anybody could be a BMF. Like, it's weird. Like it's all like it don't have no weight class or nothing.
You gotta fight a BMF to get it. So I don't know, Mark. I don't know what I got. I got nothing for you, man. So they make up this fake title, right? Nobody cares about it. It was cool when they gave it to Masvidal, right? It's cool. You give it to the Street Fighter. It probably means something to Masvidal, right? Okay. Then you get Poirier, who loses to Gaethje, and you're talking about 2 of the top contenders in their weight class currently right now. And this is a fight that we would have loved to have seen, as far as being with something at stake. It's a fight that we would have loved to see with something at stake. So then it's almost like I don't know about you. I was excited to watch the fight. The fight's going on. I was like, this is dope. You know what I'm saying? Gaethje, he needs to pull his head out of his ass after the first round. I'm like, but this is what you expect from Poirier.
I didn't feel that way, but we'll get into them. We'll get into them.
But fine. I won't get into the details, but I'll just say this. The fight ended, Mark, and you kind of get deflated because you're like, it meant nothing.
Yeah. So
to your point of it being a fake title, it felt like a fake title fight as soon as the fight was over. Champion.
Yeah, like it didn't mean anything. It like the only thing it did was establish that one of them is over the other. Like, it established who's the top contender. Yeah. That's what it did. It established who's the top contender in their respective weight class.
Maybe, but it's a fake title, Mark. I agree with you. It is what it is. I don't know. UFC definitely was money grabbing, is what I say, and what I'll say is I think it would be a better money move if they would have done what you said. You got your deal with ESPN, put it on ESPN. You don't even got to put it on ABC to where everybody can see it. But ESPN will have you enough viewership to where you put it on ESPN, you do them a solid. They clearly are falling on hard times right now. You put it on ESPN, people can see it, and then through people watching these fights that end up being great fights, then we get people reinterested in UFC. Oh, I can't hear you, Mark. I don't know what's going on. Can't hear you at all. Jerry, can you hear him? I can't hear you at all right now. I hear a bunch of static and other noises. And I hear my echo a little bit. Bear with us. We're going through some technical. Hey, message me. Nope, can't hear you. All right, just hang out with me, I guess, until Mark comes back. Well, while you guys are still here, I'm gonna let y'all in on a little secret. We're gonna talk about it towards the end of the episode, but while you guys are here, we are contemplating bringing back our Madden League. So if that's something that you guys are interested in, definitely stick around to the end of the episode.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, you're back.
All right. So
I leaked a little information while you was gone, but that was it.
he said, Jerry said no, signal being jammed by the UFC. That's funny.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I'll throw this up there too. He said ratings grab. You say ratings, ratings grab. A ratings grab would have been them doing what we said, right? A money grab is what they did. They want that pay-per-view money, okay?
Right.
And before anybody could, hey, they got time to come shut us down, then they got time to pay the fighters. They need to worry about that first. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Hey, you know what I'm saying? Make sure Dana White paying his lawyer. You know what I'm saying? He should have paid his publicist, keep all that stuff out of the news. But
anyway,
yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, so I feel like they should have did something like that. But they didn't, and it is what it is. But yeah, Derek Lewis was definitely primetime television, bro. And then after his interview after the fight was entertaining. Like Chael Sonnen actually had something positive to say about someone, saying that he wants more Derek Lewis and telling the UFC to re-sign him. That was interesting. It was interesting for the first time to hear Chael Sonnen speak and not accuse somebody of being on steroids. So.
But let me tell you what he did complain about, since we're going to bring him up in it's a fight we haven't talked about yet, but he complained about the Pereira fight.
Okay, go ahead. I'm listening.
He complained for 15 minutes on his podcast, saying that that Jan got completely robbed. And he said that Pereira clearly lost the first and second round, and that unless he got a 10-8 round in the third, then he should have either ended up with a split. Like if he got that, then he still would have been a split decision or a draw. It wouldn't have been him winning. So he went on a 15-minute rant about Pereira not deserving the dub. But I mean, in the comment section, they was like, he must have put money on Jan. He must have put money on. He must have put a bunch of money on Jan. That's what happened. Yeah,
clearly. Like he clearly, because if we were to pull up the stats, they would show that Pereira dominated in the striking area, in all areas of the striking. And yes, oh, Devon, you're crazy. But yes, Jan had he had his takedowns, but the fact of the matter is, you didn't do anything with those takedowns. Like taking someone down, and just like this is something that's happening now more so with these judges, like taking them down and just holding them there without any change of position or anything like that. That's not going to impress these judges anymore.
Well, you okay? I want to bring this up. So like,
no, because he's right? talking.
You say control, but the problem with control is this. Control, they don't mean just laying on top of somebody.
Yeah.
They mean that you're dictating the fight. You're dictating where that person's going. You're not allowing that other person to kind of move in the way that they want to move.
Not only are you not allowing them to move, but you're doing damage. Either you're going for a takedown, or you're hitting them while they're down there, and you're not just doing light hits just so that the ref doesn't come break it up. Like you are actually doing something that of significance while holding them there. Otherwise, you're just laying on top of them doing nothing. And if the person is laying there comfortably while you're on top of them, clearly that's all that's happening is that you're hugging them on the ground. That's not going to win. That if this was a real fight, that's not going to win you a fight. Like,
yeah. So like, this is what I attribute it to is UFC. Once the UFC became a league full of strikers, that's when they started moving away from, hey, we're gonna call it to where this guy is beating you just because they're preventing you from standing up. That's not enough, man. Preventing them from, like you said, preventing them from standing up, you got to do some damage. You got to actually be doing something. And just so you know, in their categories of
what up?
Of their categories that they judge everything off of like, you know, obviously you're talking about heavy strikes, regular strikes, how many, you know, they go all the way down the list, right? You know, how many takedowns. Control is now further at the bottom. I think they even rank takedowns higher than control. So like control is so far down at the bottom of the list of things now, like you cannot win a fight that way.
No, and I like control. Like, don't get me wrong, control means something as long as you're doing something other than just holding the person.
Yeah, it has to be coupled with something.
Yeah, like if you're like, you know what I mean? If you have dominant position and you're giving this like, let's say you have crossbody or whatever, and you giving this person the knees to the ribs and you giving them significant damage, and then you're switching positions and this person's trying to get out and you're holding them down, like that's different than this person taking the opportunity of you like if you took them down and they're taking the opportunity to catch their breath because essentially what you're doing is nothing, then that your control doesn't mean anything. They just took this time so they could take a breather.
Yeah, and I was gonna say even nowadays where, you know, back in the day people used to just lean up against you on the cage.
Right.
And we understand it's taxing. We understand it makes, you know, you have to exert energy if you're the person getting pressed on and all that stuff, and it wears you down. That doesn't mean anything anymore in the UFC. You could do it. It gives you an advantage because it tires out your opponent, but that's not something you can't just do that for half of a round.
Right. And expect to win the round.
You expect to win the round, especially if they get off a few good hits. Like you have to be doing damage. It's another reason why during the Cowboy McGregor fight, when he had him up against the cage, he kept throwing them shoulders. Got to do something.
Right. Like,
he understood that. Like,
yeah, exactly. You got to truly do something. But
you know what I mean? Fight. It's the ultimate fighting championship, man. You're not here
to just but it is what it is. Pereira won the fight fair and square. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I don't be listening to Chael Sonnen. Go ahead.
Yeah. But lastly, we had the fight of the evening. Which was Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier. Not fair and square. Okay.
Not fair, just square. That's funny. That's funny. Yep.
But yeah, Justin Poirier won. Dang it. He won his fight. I mean, did I say Justin Poirier?
You had it right. You going?
Yeah, but I meant Justin Gaethje won this fight by a head kick. Yeah, man, this was a good fight. Go ahead. You wanted to talk about it, so I'll let you take it.
Oh no, man. If you were watching, man, that first round, the fight was going
real quick before you say that, because Jerry put it perfectly. He said tactical control, not just laying on them and killing time.
Thank you. Very well put. So yes, first round of this fight, man, it was it went exactly how you expect the fight to go with when you have a technical fighter and you have a guy who is just dangerous standing up. You know, Poirier definitely had full control of the first round. Poirier definitely was looking like he had the mental edge. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Gaethje, I'm watching him. He looked a little timid. He looked a little like, man, I don't know where to take my shots at. He didn't look like the plan was going the way he wanted to. And all I remember, Mark, is watching this corner go back to him and say, yeah, you know what? What they say? Control chaos. Yeah, you're doing exactly what we wanted you to do. And I'm like, control chaos? He over there getting punched in the face, man. There ain't no control chaos. I was like, I don't know, man. I felt like they was just in his corner lying to him. And Poirier was like sitting there in his corner telling him like you did okay, but it's not enough. You need to go back out there. I was like, man, these corners got a completely different strategy, man. And I was like, I don't know, man. I think Gaethje might be in trouble. And then, of course, round 2 happens. The head kick happens, and that's the end of the fight, man. But watching a fight like this, I really enjoyed it. I can watch these guys fight 2 or 3 more times. The BMF title comes out, Mark. Mind you, I didn't even know the BMF title was on the line. I wasn't really paying attention to the entrance thing and the whole thing, but the BMF title is being spoken about, and I'm just like, for what? Like, what's going on? Like, it just really took the air out of it for me of like everything that I just experienced with the fight and watching it.
Right.
So yeah, the whole thing with the BMF title kind of, I feel like it cheapened the night. It really did. But at least the fans weren't cheated out of good product.
Right. So, no, they weren't. At the very least, it was a good product. But the fact of the matter is that it was a pay-per-view that if it ended up not being a good product, it would have been like, this wasn't even a championship fight. This was just fights that you made me pay for, and they were trash. Like,
yeah, they're. I mean, it's good that the fights end up being good, but they were pretty good. Like on paper, they were good enough matchups where I was like, oh, I gotta watch this, right? So, but going back to this fight, Gaethje, the knockout, it's the same exact way that Usman got knocked out, and I can see this. It's obviously going to be something that guys are going to start practicing, where you feint to punch, you feint to cross punch, and
go into
the kick in there. I'll be honest with you, Mark. Every time I watch a replay of that type of knockout, I look at it and I say, "There's no way you can see the kick coming. There's no way. You can't do anything. Like, it's really tough. You got to be looking for it."
It's not just that, but you also got to look at the opponent. Like, hit kicks in the past, hit kicks was not Gaethje's was not his thing.
Oh, no, you're definitely not expecting a head kick from Gaethje. Gaethje going in there trying to throw punches at your face, like,
right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like so the head kick was new. Like these head kicks were new for him, and like that was not something. This was not something that Poirier game planned for, and it was very clear because that thing came at him. He didn't know what to do.
Hey, and I'm gonna say this, Mark. This is the crazy thing. I don't know if you watched the replay, like they replayed it and stuff, and Poirier actually gets his hand up.
Yeah, he had his hand
up. He blocked it. He kicked through it. Like, and we already know that Gaethje has that power in his hands, but I don't know, man. Gaethje might be unlocking a new part of his game. Right now.
It's a kick. Your hands ain't gonna do but so much to block.
Yeah, but I still wasn't expecting him to be out cold with getting kicked through the. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah,
it is what it is. But if
it rattles the brain enough, it's going to shut you down.
Well, they asked him after the fight, and he said, "Nah, it's not something that I planned." He said, "I didn't practice it at all." He said, and they're like, "Yo," like he's like, "I maybe have tried that kick one other time in some other fight." Like, it's something that he just impromptu went with. But stuff like that is exactly why I like watching Gaethje fights. You don't only thing you know about his fights is that he's coming in the ring, he's going to be aggressive, and he's trying to get a knockout. You don't know what he's going to try, you don't know what he's going to do, but he's only in there to get the knockout. If he don't even care, I don't even think he cares if he gets knocked out in the process. He's just there to try to get a knockout. And like I said, it could have been Gaethje versus anybody, and Mark, I still would have watched the fight, but because it was Poirier, I absolutely wanted to watch that.
being asked thoughts on Kevin Holland. Sean,
What about Kevin Holland?
like, seriously, I don't know. Like, being honest, anything before the Derek Lewis fight, I have no idea.
Yeah, I did not watch. Me and Mark talked about this. I did not watch any prelims. I can't tell you what happened.
Bro, a contender. Okay, I'm like,
that's what I was like. Oh, is it?
I'm not gonna get into that topic right now. Because right now, I'm gonna be honest. Anything that I say as of this moment, because I'm focused on the boxing, the whole boxing thing and everything, I'm kind of just gonna be talking out my ass without really being focused and versed on the subject at the moment. So I'm just not going to.
Yeah, what weight class is he in? That makes all the difference.
See, he said he was the opening fight on the main card. See, like
I didn't even. I missed that.
Yeah, we didn't. I didn't watch because I was busy watching boxing or like trying to force myself to stay awake for boxing because I'm.
Yeah, I was prepping for boxing. I was doing a lot of things. I can tell you that I like Kevin Holland. I can tell you that, but I don't know what happened in the fight. I don't know what's going on. See middle, welter. Like right now, I'm actually more concerned with what's going on with the light heavyweight class.
He choked him out. He choked out. Hey man, I'll say this, man. That's a good victory on the resume. I find like chokeouts and like I find submissions much more appealing to your resume than knockouts because everybody can do a knockout for real. Knockouts and TKOs are possible by just about anybody. Not everybody's going to get a submission though. So I find submissions to be more impressive to the resume.
So let me talk about Stephen Thompson. I don't know if you know what happened with that situation. But I can't remember who he was supposed to be fighting, but the person he was supposed to be fighting didn't make weight. And typically we know what happens in the situation where somebody doesn't make weight. They just fight anyway. Mm-hmm. Now, what I found out recently, Mark, is typically the reason why they fight anyway is because what they do is they allow the fighter that made the weight to take 20% of that fighter's purse.
Right.
For the fight. So the person that didn't make weight still gets paid. You know, the person that prepped and spent all that time and made his weight, he still gets to feel like it wasn't for nothing. He still gets to fight. Even if he loses, they say it's a disqualification. He wins no matter what, but you get the reps in, right? And you get a little extra cash, right? So in this scenario, if I'm not mistaken, he declined the fight. Mm-hmm. He said, I don't care if the status quo is we fight anyway. I'm not fighting somebody who didn't make weight. 9 times out of 10, the person who doesn't make the weight ends up winning the fight because obviously they didn't cut weight, they didn't drain themselves of energy, all that shit. Like, it's a complete unfair advantage. So, you know, he's kind of making a stand in an area where a lot of people don't. But one thing that was brought up from some people that are fans was, if you're an up-and-coming UFC fighter, though, it's not fair to you. You know,
right?
You know what I'm saying? If I'm making $10K a fight, and I'm fighting 3-4 times a year, 6 times a year, and I finally get a decent fight, and then now, you know, let's say it's your fault you don't make weight or whatever the situation may be, and the other person across you said, I'm not fighting you. Yeah, you can kind of blame yourself for not making a weight, but it's kind of a life-altering situation when somebody refuses, okay? But the only reason why I brought this up, Mark, is because my question to you is, do you think that more fighters should refuse to fight somebody that doesn't make weight, or should they continue to do what they're doing and allow the person across from them to eat, and then they still get their money?
I think it's a personal choice. I think this is a complete personal choice, and I don't feel as though you are wrong either way you choose. Because at the end of the day, you are stepping in that ring and making life altering decisions simply because you stepped in the ring. Like these people, like there's injury, like right here, Jerry says there's injury concerns. Can you bring that up?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, he says there's injury concerns, and that's very true. Injury concerns behind like there's injury concerns behind facing the person that did everything they were supposed to get, like to be the weight, the right correct weight. And there's injury, and then there is more so when this person didn't do those things and you did. Um and so uh it is what it is. Like, so if you want to choose yourself because this person didn't do the things that they needed to do to qualify, that's fine.
Yeah.
And if you're like, yo, man, I'm still going to get this bag, I understand. Go do you. Like, so it's like it's a personal choice. You're not right or wrong, no matter which way you take it.
Got it. Okay. That's a good take. It's a good take. Because to me, everything is circumstantial. If you are gonna fight somebody that gets that type of, they get decent money for UFC, and you get decent money for UFC, then it is what it is. Like, maybe you guys can have that conversation offline and be like, hey man, look, if you don't need the money, I don't need the money neither, and we could just scrap it, because
Right.
I don't feel comfortable with it. Or a situation to where they say, okay, maybe you do need the money, and in that case, then you know what? Look, I was down to fight anyway. I prepared to fight. So yeah, you a little bit over your weight. It's cool, whatever. I'm a fighter. I'm a warrior. I don't worry about that shit. Let's go in. Let's get in the ring. Get the people what they paid for. This is a pay-per-view event. You know what I'm saying? And then you go. So, like, to me, like you say, it's personal choice. How I feel about it depends on the circumstance, is what I would say. Because if you're blocking somebody from coming up and getting that shine, or you're blocking somebody from eating with these god awful UFC contracts, then
here's the thing. Here's the thing. I will disagree with you on that. This person's not blocking because they refuse. They're not blocking you from doing anything. You blocked yourself by not qualifying to do the things that you needed to do. They're not stopping you from doing anything. They don't have the right to refuse if you don't give them an option. Like, you created the option.
But I guess let me put it this way then. That person owes you absolutely nothing.
Right.
But the good person in me feels like it's at least worth an offline conversation, even if all you're going to tell them is,
all right, let's have this offline conversation right now for shits and giggles. Hey man, I'm gonna give you the opportunity to still kick my head in. I mean, you may be like 10 pounds over me and shit like that, but I'm gonna give you this opportunity to kick my head in and embarrass me on TV in front of my family and my friends, so that you have the possibility to eat, even though you didn't do any of the things that you needed to do to qualify to be here, but I did.
10 pounds is crazy, Mark. That's all I heard. I heard 10 pounds overweight. If I'm 10 pounds overweight, I'm hanging up the phone. You're talking to me about accepting a fight. I have enough integrity that I won't fight you in that scenario, Mark. This is a dead conversation, dog. I'm an asshole. Matter of fact, I'm just gonna see myself out. Yeah, like that's crazy. But yeah. Look, fair enough, Mark. Fair enough. But I'm just saying, but only the reason why I'm saying that is, look, Dana ain't doing none of y'all favors. Okay.
Right.
And so this, I mean, I guess Dana's the bad guy in this situation, but It is what it is.
I know the bad guy in this situation is the person that didn't make weight.
Yeah, they're kind of the bad guy, you know.
No, they're the only bad guy.
Maybe I'd be a little more motivated to make my weight if I wasn't getting 10K.
They are the villain in their. They are the villain in their own story.
Maybe I'll eat a little less food.
They are the villain in their own story.
I don't know how the math is mathing on that, but it sounds right. It sounds right.
All right. But anyway, moving on. Man, like the main event of the night, like we said before, was not UFC 291. The main event of the night was boxing, and we're going to get straight into the main event. Forget everything else that happened, even though the bout before Errol Spence and Crawford was really good. We're just going to go straight into Errol Spence and Crawford because that's the one that everyone truly cared about on the night. So anyway, this fight, a lot of people had they had Errol going hard. They had him as their guy, and Bud simply came out and said, "I ain't the one." That's pretty much how this fight went. The first 2 rounds seemed pretty fair. Looked like it was going to be good. And from round 3 on, it was pretty much one way.
Hey, he hit the mat pretty hard in round 3, man. I was concerned from round 3 for sure, you know. But
there it goes right there.
Yeah, let me say this real quick. Man. You say a lot of people. There was a decent amount of people that had Spence. They did, and I get it. Now, Mark, you know me. I'm the guy who's usually going to side with the more technical fighter almost 9 times out of 10, right? You give me the guy that's a little bit more controlled, a little bit more, you know, supposed to have the higher IQ, doesn't work off of instincts as much. Give me that guy 9 times out of 10. We talked about this fight before it happened, Mark. We both had Crawford, and we both had Crawford specifically because Spence had not had a lot of action in the last 4 years.
He hasn't necessarily had a lot of action. He's fought, but he did have a fight. I mean, he did, and part of my concern was, even though he walked away from it, and everyone said, "Oh, he's okay" or whatever, he did have a car accident in December of 2022 that people don't even really think about, like the fact that he did have a car accident in 2022, and which is really. It's technically his 3rd one. It's his 3rd accident. The first one was the really bad one where he was drunk, and then he had a second one, and then this one in December 2022 where a teenager ran into his car. But
me and you may have mentioned the accident, but I don't know if it was something that was being talked about leading up to this. Fight, but either way, Mark, we both had Crawford.
But it's funny that it's talked about now, though. It is talked. Yeah, like some people are like saying, "Well, the accidents or whatever," and I'm like, I'm not giving them an excuse for that. I just think going into a championship fight, like you needed I would have liked to see you fight somebody else before you stepped in with Crawford.
We spoke about that. We spoke about him not having a tune-up. We talked about this. Me and you had this conversation, man. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't being talked about. But me and you had this conversation, Mark, and we talked about the lack of a tune-up. We talked about all these things that seem to be a factor. But even with all those things factored in, Mark, we had this, me and you both had this as being a good fight. We both had Crawford winning.
Yeah, I did not.
If we had Crawford winning, we probably had him winning by knockout, right? We expected to see a fight, man. We didn't expect to see somebody slowly beating the life out of the other person across from him.
I didn't expect to see a bludgeoning.
No. Yeah. I always wonder, like, you know when they you read like books about like medieval times and you read about old wars and stuff, and they talk about like, you know, they always say that there is pillaging going on. And I was like, what's pillaging? I wonder what that actually looks like, man. I feel like we got a little glimpse into what pillage looks like, because it was like it was just points in the fight where I'm like, I looked at Spence in round 6, Mark, and I said he looks like he wants to go home. In his eyes, in his facial expression, it looks like he's ready to go home. Mark, you ever been out to a party, Mark? You know, whether it's like a club night or whether it's at a house party or whatever, you've been out and then, you know, for whatever reason, you're not feeling the night, or maybe it's somebody else not feeling the night, but you look over at that person and you see them and you can see it on their face, Mark. They're ready to leave this place, but they don't want to be the party pooper. You know what I'm saying? They just got that blank expression on their face and they're just ready to go. That's what I saw from Spence. He looked like he was 2 hours past his point of wanting to go home by the 6th round, and he was ready to leave. But he was like, but I'm here now. We got to fight, and that's it, man. So, yeah, I'm still surprised. Hey, you know what? Kudos to Spence for lasting 9 rounds because I didn't think he was going to make it 9 rounds, Mark. I thought he was done in the 7th round. I thought he was going to be done. But,
bro, like legitimately, like I'm looking for it now, but he truly looked like Martin after going up against Tommy Hearns.
Yeah, like, he did. Hey, man, the lung, like the face, the big ass, swollen head, and everything.
Like he truly
did. Like I don't even know. I feel like dog walking is still kind of a light term, man. Like if you see, like if you would have told me, you said it's Bud's best defensive fight you've seen.
Hey, I want to go off of this, but go ahead. What you were saying already?
No, you go off it because I was going to go off of that. I'll let you go first.
Okay. But yeah, listen. So this you saying this is Bud's best defensive fight that you've seen, and it opens up his offense. It's funny that you say that because now the topic of conversation around Bud is now that he is 40-0, is that he is creeping. He is slowly creeping on the GOAT, or at least the GOAT, so they say, in Floyd Mayweather Jr. And they're saying that Bud is better than Floyd ever was in any time in his life. And I find that interesting because one thing that we do, or one thing that people do, is they discount how ridiculous Floyd's defense is. And you can't, there is not a person in this world that can out defend Floyd. If you try to get into that counter matchup with him, you're going to lose. Like exactly in his life, they said there is no point ever that Floyd is better than Bud is right now. And I was like, that's absolutely ridiculous. Floyd has fought and defeated some of the best fighters that you will ever see. And it's just crazy.
Let me I want to bring up some more stuff now that this overreaction to the victory is happening, Mark. I'm pretty sure you said you found it interesting that people were saying this. I found it disrespectful, Mark. That's what I found it. I found it disrespectful, man. It's particularly disrespectful when one of the reasons why people were picking Spence, well, actually the main reason why people were picking Spence in this fight, the people that were picking him, is Bud Crawford. The biggest knock on him is he hasn't fought anybody.
Right.
He hasn't fought any noteworthy people for you to just outright be like, oh, he's going to fight Spence. Spence was far and away the best fighter that he's fought. Now, he's only fought one of those types, okay? And that's Spence right now. So I don't want to hear anything about any conversation about him being better than Floyd Mayweather because resume has to matter, Mark. And you can say, and Mark, you know me, I do not like Floyd Mayweather at all. I'm one of those people that accuse him of quote unquote ducking, passively ducking people. But I'm gonna tell you this: when you look at who he fought, you can be mad at the times when he fought those people, but he fought them, Mark. He fought every single person that you wanted to see him fight. He fought them. Okay. You could say it's when they got older. I don't care. Floyd was old too. Floyd was old too. Man, y'all got me in here defending Floyd Mayweather. I feel dirty now. But yes, Terrence Crawford is not anywhere near that yet. We cannot have that conversation of him being anywhere near Floyd Mayweather. And let's be honest, you say it was his best defensive fight. What I saw in this fight was I hate to use this comparison, but it was Roy Mayweather. It was Roy Jones. It was Roy Jones like. He was just quicker than him. He's got more power than him. He was just more athletically gifted as a boxer than him. He had better instincts. I don't think that what I was seeing I wasn't seeing Crawford being more technical than him. I wasn't seeing him outclass him in that way. What I saw was a guy that was too slow to move to deal with the counter punches, and I saw a guy that was didn't have the level of ingenuity that Crawford had. Crawford made his adjustments on the go, and he could do something like that because of his athletic gifts. He's just fast. It came down to speed and power, Mark, and that, I mean, it was amazing, but. Nah, man, he's not Floyd Mayweather. He's not even close.
Oh, but listen, here's my thing. Because off of this, Stephen A. Smith said that he like being a yet another prisoner of the moment comment was made, and it was saying that Errol Spence should retire. I never heard of someone saying that someone should retire simply because they lost their first fight. Their first professional fight. That's crazy talk. You lose your first professional fight, and now all of a sudden you should retire because you lost your first professional fight.
Mark, Errol Spence is 33 years old. Bud Crawford is 35 years old. Imagine being 33 years old when you first lose, and then somebody says you need to retire. This after we just watched Floyd Mayweather fight into his 40s.
Right.
We watched Manny Pacquiao getting knocked out in his late 30s, and he still fought into his 40s. We watched Errol Spence he needed to retire.
We watched Bernard fight into 50.
Yeah, Bernard Hopkins is still fighting, Mark. This is a problem. Like he's still taking fights. What are you talking about? Like yeah, you're right. But Errol Spence needs to retire. So Mark, I know we talked about this.
Like you can say here's the issue, man. The issue is the fact that this was, in my opinion, not only was Bud better than Errol, but this was a failure of coaching. This preparation, this fight was a failure in preparation and coaching. Like Errol needs to look at his corner and be like, "What the fuck? Like what?
Absolutely.
Like what did you prepare me for?" Because whatever that wasn't this. That's not what happened here tonight.
He wasn't prepared for the speed. Okay. Now, mind you, so Spence is a southpaw. Terrence Crawford can go. He can switch, right? Mm-hmm. Now you have to be thinking, I'm gonna fight this dude who can fight southpaw or not. He's probably gonna fight me southpaw to try to make it even, right? You have to be prepared for that part. Now you got to understand he's now jabbing you with his strong hand, okay? He was not prepared for those jabs, Mark. Like it's almost as if these fools just said, we're going to go in there with our game plan. And our game plan, our game plan has nothing to do with what Bud Crawford's going to do. It has everything to do with what we want you to do, but what we want you to do has nothing to do with Bud Crawford's skill sets. That's
Marcus. Well, you saw just now, Marcus is saying that his coaches threw him under the bus and saying that Errol got in the ring and went rogue.
Look, you seen how hard them fucking them jabs was hitting? You might have went rogue too. It might have been involuntary. You know what I'm saying? The tap to the head, man. Like, look, but this brings up the point, Mark, that I was talking about. I didn't have this conversation with you, but I had this conversation with somebody right after the fight, and I was like, he absolutely. This is why you need a tune-up fight. He looked, Mark. Was it just me, or did he not look uncomfortable? Spence looked uncomfortable in the ring, more uncomfortable than I've ever seen him look. So if I'm talking about even in the first 2 rounds, he looked uncomfortable. He didn't ever look comfortable in the ring. And to me, if they're going to say he wasn't following the game plan, I think he just wasn't prepared to fight. I personally think he wasn't prepared to fight, and I think he just wasn't comfortable, and I felt like it showed itself after time,
Yeah, man.
But
it just looked.
He said he got knocked down by a jab. Mark,
yeah, man.
I want to be very clear, Marcus. I want to be very clear. His guard was down. Every time he got hit by them joints, his guard was completely down. He wasn't moving with the punch. He wasn't moving away from it. He was just standing still with his guard down while this dude was extending his fist through his face. Usually when you get jabbed, it's straight on in your face, and it's little taps. You usually got a little space. You're leaning back away from the jab so it don't really contact. Like, he wasn't moving, Marcus. I don't care who you are. If you're not moving and somebody's punching you, eventually it will take you down. You know what I mean? So that you can say, look, you can say, but every time I watched him get punched in the face by one of them jabs, it looked like it hurt.
Yeah, man.
And it looked like he wasn't moving away from it. He was just taking full on contact. Like,
I will say this though, the most ridiculous thing that I heard was that was Errol say he wanted a rematch, or they need to do a rematch. I was like, a rematch of what? I don't want to see that again.
Errol, first off, I don't know how much money you think you're going to make on a rematch, Errol Spence, but you're not making. You can't ask for nothing. Okay, it's not 50-50. You'd be lucky if it's 60-40. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
If you're gonna step in the ring and make me pay for a pay-per-view to watch you get your ass beat up and down the ring again, then guess what? You don't deserve to get paid 50-50 or 60-40. So Errol Spence, what you need to do is take another fight. Okay, whether you talk about a tune-up and then go fight a contender and then show up to a Spence fight, then maybe I think that's more of the path that you need to take. But clearly, you need to prove to the world at this point that you're not a guy that went without fighting essentially for 4 years, that came back, that might be rusty and might look like he don't got the fight.
You can't say he went without fighting. He had at least one fight every year.
No, I'm just saying, just about. I mean, he have a significant fight. But my point is this: people are now looking at him and saying he didn't fight for a while. He had all these things happen. Like you said, nobody talked about it before the fight, but now after the fight, they're talking about it and they're looking at him and saying he's not right, Mark. You need to go back out and prove to people that, hey, maybe you did fight too early, but this ain't the end of the story for you. Like, you have a lot of ground to make up here, man. Like, if you have a good fight and you just get knocked out, you're undefeated, he's undefeated, people understand. People don't understand how an undefeated boxer who has the better resume comes into this fight and gets tossed around the ring like a rag doll. They don't understand that. You need to prove yourself. I hate to say that, Mark. Somebody who's only lost one fight, he got to come back and prove himself, but he does.
But yeah, no, it wasn't a good fight. But it wasn't a good fight, but it was a fight all the same, and a fight that Errol Spence has lost, and Bud is running around holding his privates and yelling at potential contenders while knocking someone out. So that happened. But anyway, now it's funny because it seems like we lost some people right when I'm about to get into the most exciting part for me. So I'm now going to talk. Let's talk about it, man. Do you want to talk? Let's talk about the Madden franchise, man.
Man, let's talk about it.
I mean,
So
so
we
Madden finally decided that they were going to do a major overhaul to their game after such low sales in recent years. And the major overhaul that they're finally doing, oh no, it's not to MUT. It's not to MUT, thank God. It's to
yeah.
something that actually matters. Franchise mode. And this year, we are finally getting a true franchise mode. Let's go into the deep dive of what
Oh,
franchise
you
mode
got it. Okay, you got it. I had it up on the phone. I didn't know you
is.
had it. You know what I'm saying? You
Right.
got it on you. Okay.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I was ready for this. I was excited for
Let's
this.
go. Let's go.
You know what I'm saying? No, those that's in here that was in the league that knows us, or those that are watching and that knows us, they know that we ran one of the best franchise leagues out there. At one point, we had 32 teams, all 32 teams covered
Yeah,
in
we
the
had
league.
not on Mark. Let me brag a little bit. You know what I'm saying? We had 32 teams. We had people that would leave the franchise in like the franchise mode, and they would come back and be like, "Look, man, we made a mistake. Y'all are clearly the best franchise league, connected franchise league going on right now." We had the website up. You could follow your stats. You could look at free agents on the website. You know what I'm saying? We did the home. You know, we had it to where every game was streamed. You know what I'm saying? So now it's different when you just playing a game against somebody and it's just y'all two. It's different when you have 30 other people in the league watching you play on a live stream and then your phone's blowing up because you threw a pick and everybody's clowning you. You know what I'm saying? Every head-to-head matchup is a Monday night football game. It's a primetime game, you
Yeah.
know?
Like, you know
So
what I mean? Some people, sometimes sometimes you skip the game that wasn't important. Like, you like, oh, these are two bums playing. Go ahead and let them handle that. You know what I'm saying? Or it's a bum against a really good player. But when that really good player goes up against that other really good player and they try to go ahead and set up a game for 1 p.m. on a Tuesday, you like, nah, bro. Nobody trying to let y'all play at 1 p.m. on a Tuesday. Y'all are not, that's not happening. We not
absolutely
letting that
not.
happen.
Hey, y'all need to
Everybody
make
be
that
like,
for the
nah,
night
you got
game.
to
Hey,
set
we
that
got
up for
work in the morning.
you got to set that up for a better time, my boy.
Yeah, you know. So that's just a little taste of what we were doing. We had plays of the week up on the website, all that stuff, man. You know, so we haven't messed
Oh,
with the. What's
just to
up?
let you guys know, we did me and Sean talking about this today. We were reminiscing, and we went back into the group chats, and some of the highlight plays they still exist. They're still out there, so we might put them up on the eye test group on the group page just to show the type of things that we were recording and just to show what we were keeping track of at the time.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially for those that wasn't a part of the franchise, y'all get a little glimpse into what we were doing. And this was, I would say, we were ahead of our time, Mark. We were streaming every game. We were streaming our league back in 2018.
Yeah. Well,
That's
yeah.
and before 2018, 2017, I believe we started. So yes,
Yeah.
we haven't done the league in a while, but you know, right now it's looking like we're going to be back with these changes. Let's talk about let's let them
So
talk about these changes,
let's
Mark.
get into these changes.
Yeah,
Right away, what you could see on the screen here is what looks to be training dummies, and that's because they brought back the training camp in franchise mode. So no longer do you press the button and train your players off screen. Now you can actually go in, do the mini games, and you can actually play and get your players trained up.
and let me make one comment, Mark, because if I'm looking at that correctly, you know, maybe you guys can't see it, but my screen's big enough I can see it. It says, does that say one skill point? Does
Yes, it
that
says
say does that
yes,
say rookie snaps? Look, I'm,
yes,
I'm only asking that, Mark, because you know the rookie snaps allow you to see your hidden your player level, superstar, X Factor, all
right.
that stuff. You have to get a certain amount of snaps to do that. You can unlock snaps doing that. You get a skill point, a guaranteed skill point on top of XP. That's kind of a big deal, man. That's a huge deal, man.
Yeah, if you get, I'm gonna just break it down for you. This shows in the wide receiver battle. If you get 1,500 XP just for doing it, just for getting that bronze and getting that 1,000 points, but you don't get a skill point, and you get plus 100 rookie snaps. If you get a silver, you get 2,000 XP, 1 skill point, and 150 rookie snaps. For gold, you get 2,500 skill points. 2,500 XP and one skill point, 300 rookie snaps. That sounds like good money, man. That sounds like you actually focusing on players. And now with that focus, I wonder how this works, because you are picking a specific wide receiver to focus on that week. So I wonder, like, is if you could do this with multiple people in the week, or is it like, no, you got to pick a guy?
Oh, I can tell you, this is specifically, if you're doing Connect the Franchise, this is specifically for the for your skill focused players. You know, in the beginning of the season, you start out, you have 2 that you can do that. Then with the new Madden, you can get it all the way up to 6 focused players. Yeah, it's only the focus trained players that you can get those bumps with. But that's still a big deal, man. You can with getting the extra skill point and getting these rookie snaps in. That sounds like to me that you can actually take somebody that may be a bum or a scrub, and you can develop a Mark. That's kind of a big deal dealing with the Madden franchise. I could take somebody that is not of the superstar caliber and still feel like my time isn't wasted in investing in. Let's go.
Right. And now, like, we're just going to break down what these training camp mini games will consist of very quickly. You will get target passing for quarterbacks, the pass skeleton outman for quarterbacks. You will get rushing attack for halfbacks and fullbacks, wide receiver battles for wide receivers and tight ends, wide receiver battles, red zone attack for wide receivers and tight ends. You will get the trenches battle for defensive linemen and linebackers. You would get the chase and tackle for linebackers that will be available. The defensive back battles will be for, obviously, defensive backs. And the DB battle, red zone defense, will be for defensive backs. Field goal accuracy for kickers. And then you got the coffin corner for punters.
Mark, it feels like 05 again, Mark. I don't know.
Yeah, these are like a lot of the classic games that they already had before. And I remember the wide receiver battle was always easy to win, because if you just didn't run the route that it was telling you to run, you could win, because you just call for the ball. Like, you just ran your own route, you call for the ball.
Or you just, like, it's calling for a deep route, so the defense is set up to guard a deep route. You run a 5-yard in. Hey, call for that. Let me get that. Yeah, like, nah, man. This is oh man. I mean, I spent hours. If y'all are anything like us, man, you probably spent hours not even playing the game, just going to the main menu where it's like, do you want to play season? Do you want to? Nah, man. I just want to play the training camp. I want to do the mini camp games. Let's go.
And now, next up, you had the weekly strategy. Here you go. In addition, and I'm just going to read this off. In addition to the training camp, mini games have also been implemented into weekly strategy loop. Each week, after selecting your offensive, defensive game plans, each of your focus players, except for the offensive line, will have the opportunity to play through one mini game. All 26 mini games will be available, but each focus player will be limited to playing the mini games they are eligible for. Also, because this is a weekly test, the rewards will be much lower than in training camp, and it is essentially used as a modifier for that player's bonus focus XP.
Yeah. But still, knowing that, so you get the full amount what they're showing there in training camp, which how many people how many people skip through training camp, Mark?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna tell you, I never did anyway. But I'm
Yeah.
absolutely. We doing training camp. We doing the preseason games. I'm trying to get as much XP as I can
Yeah.
off of the activities during the preseason before the season starts.
Now here's this. This is a dev note that I think is kind of important. It says mini games in franchise will play a bit different than the mini games in the front end. This is because in franchise, players will use their true ratings with a few exceptions. We've adjusted the metal threshold to account for this. So essentially, what they're saying that their true rate, like, so you could have a let's take Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
On the Vikings, there is no cornerback that matches up to Justin Jefferson. So if in the mini game you have a wide receiver battle and you're utilizing Justin Jefferson, it's going to be very easy to get gold with him because no cornerback matches up to him ratings wise on the Vikings. So they kind of, that's at least from what I'm reading, they adjusted the XP in that scenario because of that scenario, not in that scenario.
It says metal thresholds. They adjusted the metal threshold. So let's say you get 7 attempts, right? Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. But let's say there's 7 attempts, and typically to get gold, you need 5 attempts. Well, when you're playing with Justin Jefferson, you might need to get all 7 to get gold,
right,
because you have Justin Jefferson. So that's what it sounds like to me also, because it said the metal thresholds.
Yeah, you're right.
So that's still, but either way, I think that's a great foresight that they had to put that in there. That's pretty dope. I don't know, Mark. I mean, talking about this is getting me excited about playing Madden. Like,
yeah, man. And now this is something that me and Sean excelled in was trades, and people often got frustrated with the trades that were made. But now you have trades, and in these trades, let's talk about what you could do and what's changed now. It says, following the barrage of blockbuster trades over the last couple seasons, we knew that our trade system required a much-needed overhaul. Quite simply, our previous system just flat out couldn't replicate the trades the NFL teams were making in Madden 24. We've made a number of improvements to allow for more fun, more flexibility, and more realism with the trades. So what does that actually mean? It says the amount of trade slots in Madden NFL 24 has doubled from 3 to 6. So now you have did you pull this up?
No, I looked at all of this. I mean,
pull up what Devon said. Like,
oh, I didn't. Oh,
but yeah.
Oh, you mean robbery and collusion? Hey, look, man, you can't force another human being to make a trade with you.
Yeah, you know, because this is one thing that we had to implement, because you guys, like me and Sean was talking about this, how we had to tweak the rules over the years to get it perfect so you guys wouldn't complain about different things. And we made it to where you couldn't trade with a computer. You had to trade with a person.
Mm-hmm.
Like at the end, we made it to where you couldn't have more than one computer trade. Like it was like more than one computer trade on your thing, or like more than 2.
If I'm not mistaken, we made it to where it was we allowed 2 computer trades during the season, and then during the off season you can make another one. So it was like 3 over the course of the whole thing.
Yeah, over the whole season.
Yeah, it was 3 total. Like, we wasn't letting you make computer
but you couldn't. But like largely, you had to make human to human trades.
Yeah.
Hey man, people they want what they want.
Are you talking about the computer trades, or are you talking about the human to human trades? You know what, Devon? It sounds like you one of the people that got caught on the bad end.
Devon was one of those people that did. Devon was one of those people that would try to give people absolutely nothing and ask for everything, and then they don't want to trade with him. And he's like, "It's robbery and collusion that you guys are making these trades."
Look,
But
but let's just add one more thing to it. Since he want to talk, you know what I'm saying? We air him out real quick. You know what I'm saying? Devon was the master of the draft day trade. He thought he was Kevin Costner. This man Devon every season would make sure he would not trade his picks away until draft day because he's like, you could get more for it on draft day. Devon, don't think we wasn't paying attention. Matter of fact, I remember you telling me about it, man. You think I forgot? Like you was Kevin Costner. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We seen what kind of shenanigans he was up to in that movie. We seen it.
But getting back to this, getting back to what this offers, is, like I said, additional trade slots. So you go from 3 to 6. And then in expanding these slots, we wanted to maintain a balance between realism and the fun of stepping into a GM's shoes. And the unfortunate reality is the vast majority of NFL trades include one, sometimes two players, but very rarely more. However, the fortunate reality is that Madden is a video game, and sometimes being ultra realistic isn't necessarily as fun. So the amount of players you can add to a trade package will remain at 3, while the maximum number of picks you will be able to offer will be all 6 slots. Yeah. So this is what they're saying. They're saying that you can only put 3 players in a slot, but you can put 3. Now you can put 3 players and 3 picks in the slot. Like so that makes more sense. And so that'll be really cool to see like how that opens things up. And it's saying now what you get, so it's saying extra draft picks. Being able to include up to 6 draft picks in the trade meant that we also needed to provide you with some additional capital to be able to pull off these blockbuster trades. We've added an additional year of draft picks, so now essentially we'll be able to trade up to 3 years and in the future. So it's not just this current year and the year after. Now you'll be able to trade that one more year later. So kind of akin to what recently happened with Russell Wilson and the Broncos. That Seahawks trade, so to where the Broncos pretty much gave up their entire future for Russell Wilson, and also kind of what the Eagles did when they originally acquired Carson Wentz, where they had draft picks tied up in that for 3 years.
Hey, I gotta address some of these comments that been popping up, man. Look, Devon got all them titles to show for it too, man. This is crazy, man. Look, it seems to be a little bit of a back and forth going on now between some of the former Madden League players, you know what I'm saying? Devon and his draft day tactics, Jerry saying, what did he get him? He ain't got no titles. Like, that's crazy. So, look, it sounds like you guys are back like you never left. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to shout out to Robert. You know what I'm saying? Earlier he came in. He said sorry for being late. He said he had some family stuff going on. I did speak to him offline a couple of days ago about it. So I do know what's going on with Robert. I'm not going to share, but just prayers up, man. Prayers up for you, Rob. Thank you for tuning in. He said he needed the distraction mark. So, I think we got some great content for him to catch up on here.
Well, we're here for you, bro. We're going over this Madden franchise stuff, and we are talking, and we're also talking about our league that we used to run as well. And so we're basically breaking down the things that are coming up in this new franchise mode for Madden and how excited we are for it. So as it says there, this is the trade tuning part of it. There are endless number of trade factors that go into a trade as far as what's offered and accepted. With the additional trade slots, it was vital that we made a complete pass over our trade tuning heading into Madden 24. Throughout the cycle, we uncovered a number of issues that were causing problems and inconsistencies with how players were being valued and have made many improvements that should result in players of all types being valued more consistently. So that's nice. So basically, this is just saying that they tune things up to be more consistent and better. Yes, thank you for pulling that up. Jerry says in the beta, the trading system was nice, and during the draft too. That's good to hear.
Yeah, that's good to hear, man. And I know one thing that you said to me, Mark, just real quick. I know you mentioned you were like, as long as the mechanics and everything are pretty good, I'm gonna let you know I've been playing these demos for the Madden games for the past couple years, and with their new real motion stuff that they got now, the motion capture.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you understand, but every single NFL player that exists, when the season comes around, they have sensors that are built into their pads. So you get real player motion because of that. So that's, you know, how they have like the next gen. That's what it's, next gen.
Right.
That's how they capture the next gen stats, but they also take the next gen stats
and sell it off to EA.
They do. So they have all that. So like, I'll be honest, that's one of the best improvements that they've made since we kind of stopped playing. So I wouldn't worry about the mechanics, Mark. So that's one thing I wouldn't worry about. But just having that and then having all this stuff being added to it, I think they are, you know, they're at least on the right track to getting my attention and maybe, you know, allowing us to dip our toes back in the Madden waters, you know.
All right, so here it is. Next part of the trade is that you get offers. In Madden 23, we added the ability to get generated offers for your players and opposing players, and we made several improvements to its functionality in Madden 24. All of them trade tuning mentioned above also applies to get offers functionality. And we also identify and fix the issue from last year where occasionally there would be offers populated that would not be accepted when attempting to via manual trades. So that would be crazy if someone offered you a trade and then you go to accept and it's like, nah, I don't want that. Like, what? Like, you the one who sent me the offer. That's crazy.
It's like, it's saying it won't be accepted via manual. So like, if I proposed it to the computer team and they tell me no, but then they're going to turn around and offer me the same trade and expect, like, yeah, definitely sounds like it was a broken system. But here, what it sounds like though is that, you know, previously, if you wanted to receive offers for your player, you had to put them on a trade block. But everybody knows once you put them on a trade block, then that now affects that player's morale. It affects that player, how they feel about you, how they feel about your team. And let's say you don't accept any offers for them. You're like, okay, cool, I'll just resign them. Now you got to go deal with a disgruntled player during the signing. So now it gives you an opportunity to receive offers without having to disrupt your team chemistry by putting the player on the trade block. So this is nice. This is the way it should have been, Mark. This is the way it should have been.
All right. So like next up is commissioner tools and settings. This is the important stuff for the commissioners, and it kind of changes what the experience that everyone has. Basically, that now they have it to where depth chart reordering, you can turn that on and off. Like, so essentially the option for reordering the depth chart with the settings on this depth chart will be reordered to accommodate new acquisitions and slot them in accordingly. With the setting off, it will be up to you to reorder your depth chart at all times and place any new acquisitions into the depth chart. This was, but obviously we haven't played since like 2019 or 18 or 19.
2019, but it was a problem when we played, Mark. I think
in 2019.
In
2019, I remember, like, I would set my depth chart. I would have people in certain spots of depth chart, and then every single game, the computer would change it back. Like they would change move something around and change it back.
And most of the time, we wouldn't find out until we started the game. And mind you, we're in the Madden League. So we're playing against somebody, and then we got to tell, like, and you can only pause 3 times within an online match. So now you done burn one of your pauses to go to the menu, and now you got to go through your depth chart to try to, you know what I'm saying, reorganize that halfway through the first quarter because you just so happen to notice this one player wasn't on the field. Yeah.
Right. So that was a big issue back then, and now you have the ability to turn that off, which is amazing. Um,
Let's address this real quick. Um, Robert, we haven't even been through all of the changes yet. We're still working on it, but just off of the additions to what they're doing right now alone, to me, I would say it's worth playing with knowing my prior knowledge of how much they've changed the player movements and how things are less animation based. It's still, don't get it messed up. You still have your animations, but it's a lot less animation based, and you do have the real speeds. When you play a game and you get around the corner with Raheem Mostert, nobody catches you. Nobody trips you up from behind magically or mysteriously anymore. So
yeah, nobody's taking 10-yard dive tackles anymore.
no, that's not happening anymore. Like Madden is they fixed the player motion stuff a couple years ago, and now they're finally fixing making the additions to the Madden franchise that we've been waiting for. So yes, I would say as of right now, Robert, I would say it's worth playing.
Yeah, and it says draft class strength. This is something that I went over. Basically, it says we've done a lot over the last couple of years to make to generate draft classes more unique and more fun. But outside of hand editing the class, there hasn't been an easy way to customize and adjust classes until now. Under the league setting tab in franchise, you'll find edit draft class strength. From there, you'll be able to edit the strength of each position in the draft class with options that include very weak, weak, normal, strong, very strong. Each setting will adjust the likelihood of a certain type of prospect generating. So on very strong, there will be more top tier prospects, and the chances of seeing generational talent is 10 times higher than on normal. On
Yeah.
very weak, the opposite is true. And there's no need to read that. The opposite is the opposite. Another quick example of the difference these settings can make in the quality of draft classes is testing these settings. We generated 30 classes on each setting, and with every position set to very strong, draft classes saw an average of nearly 10 80 plus overall prospects per draft, which is a lot. And it's saying with every position set to very weak, there were a total of 580 plus overall prospects overall over all 30 classes, and an average overall that was over 5 points lower than the very strong class. So
Yeah, that's a big deal. And I don't bringing this up, Mark. When we started our Madden franchise and our baby steps, that we had to take, we are at the point where we started off with like 3-4 teams. We get to the point we had like 8 teams, eight human players in our league, Mark. And I remember we were only advancing once every 7 days. We gave
right,
people 7 days to play their games. Mark, at that rate, you probably make it through 2 seasons, right?
ever.
Two seasons throughout the year, maybe 3 if you're lucky, but 2 seasons. And if that's the casual level that you're playing your connected franchise at, then guess what? You might want to have it on very strong, because then you're never going to be able to have the amount of seasons that you need to really develop players. So you want them coming out the gate with a higher rating. So there you have the very strong, and it's a one button press. I don't have to go in there and manually edit players within the draft like how we had to do before. So that is a definitely dope. Or you don't have to go online and download somebody's custom draft class that they made, and then
Right.
Because even when you did that, you don't know what you're getting unless you go through every single player and look. So before you actually get to the draft, so this is a great tool, and you can adjust this season by season. I could start the first season of the franchise and say we just want a regular draft, and then say, you know what, we might want to bump it up a little bit for the next draft. And but that's total control. That's the type of total control we're looking for when it comes to being a commissioner.
And not only that, but you can make it by position. So you can have a very strong year for quarterbacks, and have the year be weak for defensive ends. You can have and like vice versa, you can have a very strong year for wide receivers, but have it be weak for DBs or something like that. Like, so every single year we could set it to where it'll be something a little bit different, and
Yeah.
and that way it is what it is. So
and we can let the people in the league let them know, hey man, ahead of time, this year is going to be a cornerback draft. But this is another thing I ran into doing franchise before, or we've run into. How many years did we run into it, Mark, where there just wasn't no linebackers? The time when I was converting safeties and linebackers, there just weren't any great linebackers to be drafted. We're 5 seasons deep and nobody's drafted a great linebacker. So now you have the older linebackers aging out, but then you're not able to replace them with anybody because there's nobody in the draft. You go 3 seasons without a good, draft class for linebackers, and you see that's a need for your league. You could say, you know what, we're going to bump it up this year.
Well, not that Gage Bird, huh? That Gage Bird is all time. All time.
Yeah, we got to find some clips. We got to post some of these clips that we got.
I'm pretty sure Gage Bird is in quite a few of them because he's all time.
I just want to address some of these comments really quickly. He said no. Robert said no more computer assist. The computer assist is not crazy like it was before. He said, what about the middle linebacker jumping up to catch that deep ball? Sean abused. That is a crazy look. I want to be very clear. I was moving strong safeties to middle linebacker. If you want to run the ball up the middle, you probably got me because I can't stop the run. But if you want to throw over the middle when I have a 6'2" strong safety that's converted to middle linebacker, then yes, he's going to jump up like that, Devon. Don't try to do me like that. College football loading up the draft class to Madden. That's a good thing that you mentioned that because college football is coming back not this year but next year. And next year, I'm going to be curious to
see. Before you say that, these nil deals seem to be kicking the college football game's ass. They not offering these players much money, and these players is like, well, my name and likeness is not going
$500 per player, Mark, is what they were offering them to have their namesake and their likeness used in the game. So it's they need to figure this out, Mark, because you could give $500 to the guy that's the 80th player on the college football roster, but you can't give $500 to somebody that's making $1 million on the NIL deal. You can't give Deion Sanders' son $500, dog. I don't care what he's done or not done. Okay. But Jerry said tackling is exponentially better. You get punished for tackling. The hit stick is not going to cause a fumble all the time. All that stuff. Yeah, the game, these are things that I've seen just from playing the demos over the years. Like tackling, if you're a bad tackler, good luck. You are going to lose every game.
This is something that I needed to clear up. And right here, offensive and defensive play call settings. Previously, cooldowns and play call limits were a universal setting that applied to both the offense and defensive side of the ball. This year, commissioners will have the ability to apply these limits to offense and defense independently. So what I'm taking from this, or at least this is what I'm hearing for myself, is that essentially if I want to hurry up on offense and call a play and I call my play and I don't have to wait for your defense to get its shit together anymore. Like we did before. Like, you know how before offensively you go into the menu, call your play, and now you still had to wait for the defense to call.
Yeah, the defense has 10 seconds to pick their defensive play after you picked your play. And it's like in real life, if the offense is clapping it up and they coming out the huddle, if you ain't got your stuff together as a defense, that's your fault.
Exactly. And that's essentially what I'm hearing now, is that it is like that you can change that. You can make that a thing, like where it's like, all right, as soon as my offense is ready, you got like 3 seconds to call your play because we at the line.
Yeah, and just so people understand, when we ran our league, we wanted We were here for realism. We wanted everybody to feel like a GM. We wanted everybody to feel like the GM and the head coach. Everybody's Bill Belichick out here. Well, okay, maybe not Bill Belichick, but you get what I'm saying. That's what that's
No, we wanted everybody to feel like Jerry Jones. You was the coach, you was the GM, and you was the owner. Everybody was Jerry Jones.
You walk in the sideline, whispering to Coach Air like, "Nah, you gotta take him out, son. You gotta take him out. Nah, leave him in, right?" But that's the experience we wanted to have with our league. So the GM stuff was very important because in real life, if a team can have all the players in the world, but a bad GM can ruin that. A bad GM can have it to where the cap is messed up and then you can't re-sign guys. We wanted people in the league to really experience these things the way that it would happen in real life. So like the realism level. Oh my God. Only because I know when he said that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
He said that after he seen that picture of Jerry Jones floating around to him.
Right. I'm pretty sure has nothing to do with the fact that Jerry Jones took you in his helicopter and flew you on his private jets and things of that.
No. All of a sudden, him being on the front step of that integrated school, all of a sudden he's your friend now.
Right.
But yeah, let's go further into these settings, man.
Okay, so further into the settings, all right, very briefly, this doesn't affect us what we will do, but fantasy draft order. Previously, the fantasy draft could only be played in a standard order, going from picks 1 through 32 each round. This year, commissioners could choose this or snake draft, which reverses the order of each round. So essentially, this makes it, if you're going to do a fantasy draft order, this makes it more fair for everyone because now it's front to back. So like the last person isn't always getting the shitty, just getting the scraps of the picks. So
and if we're doing a fantasy draft, that makes sense because that's the way we do it in fantasy football. And that might be one of the main reasons why the fantasy draft is something that a lot of people didn't engage in. But I'll be honest with you, Mark. It's if I had little time and I'm like, it's March and maybe I'm not in the league yet, and March comes around, I want to be a part of the league but to make things interesting, I don't have 5 seasons to develop people. Maybe the league owner says, you know what, we just gonna start this off with a fantasy draft. Now that's something that would interest me now, considering that it's a snake draft and I don't have time to develop players if I have the 32nd pick. So this is definitely something that should bring more people to Madden franchise.
Yeah. So it says free agent motivations impact. The impact of motivations on players signing can now be adjusted and turned off. Raising the impact makes it easier to sign interested players, but more difficult to sign players with lower interest. Lowering the impact makes it easier to sign players with low interest, but reduces the effects of players having high interest. Essentially making them more difficult to sign than they would have been otherwise, because essentially you're taking away that effect of if you reduced it, it pretty much puts every player on the same playing field as far as their motivation to join your team.
Yeah, and Mark, we were big on the GM thing. If you wanted to survive in our league, you couldn't just be a great player at Madden. You had to be a great GM. You had to be balanced in that way. So in our league, absolutely, we would want it to be exactly what it is. If a player is interested in going to your team because of the success that your team has had and the things that you wanted to do, or maybe they look at your team, you have prestige, and they fit your scheme, and they say, you know what, I want to go over there and play with the Philadelphia Eagles this year, then that's the way it should be. It ain't always fair for people. You know what I'm saying? Odell doesn't sign for the contract that he signs for if he goes somewhere outside of the LA Rams that year. Rams, he was trying to get a Super Bowl. So yeah.
This is very cut and dry. Now you can actually set the trade difficulty as a setting, basically with easy, very easy, and hard, very hard. Nothing to explain there. It is what it is. This is the important stuff right here. Home field advantage toggle. This is the one. There is now an on and off option for home field advantage while playing games, allowing home field advantage effects to be turned off. Turning this toggle off will turn off home field advantage as well as all Madden factors. So, essentially, what this is saying, like those times when you are the away team, and then your guy who is a 92 plus catch rating, and it's down to the wire in the game, and this catch that he's caught 40 times in a row, and then this time when it's all important, when it matters most, he drops the ball or he fumbles it crossing the goal line. You could turn that off. You can you can turn that off. You can make it to where that nonsense doesn't happen because of the home field advantage thing. But I'm glad that this is acknowledged, that this has always been a thing that happens. Like that these factors when you're playing is just the luck of the draw thing that happens when you're up by 24, and then all of a sudden you're fumbling 4 times in a row. You got 4 players fumbling over and over and over again, or you're the away team, and your guys are just fumbling all over the place.
Yeah, all of a sudden your running back pulls a hamstring, and he's not out for a couple of weeks. He's just out for the game. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Just long enough for you to lose this game, Mark. You know, they don't want to really affect the whole season with it. They just want you to lose this game really bad, you know? But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like, hey man, this game is a lock. Once I get this last running play in and get this first down, I can run the clock out. Unless he fumbles, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And, of course, is that 1% chance that he fumbles, it's going to be 100% on that, right? So yes, I'm with you, man.
So that you could turn that off. And it says progression and regression sliders. There are now age-based progression sliders in addition to position-based ones. Players will progress at rates based on the average of their age and position settings. Regression sliders have been added for both age and position, and the player rate of regression will also be based on the average of the age and position.
So what it sounds like to me is off rip, their age is already their progression is already going to have a baseline based on their position and their age. But then you still have the ability to adjust what age that is if they start aging out. It's very important. This is very important because we all know it was never fair for a quarterback to start aging out at 30. Remember, 30 used to be that magic number. And
right.
It's like your quarterback's aging out at 30. Meanwhile, the computer team has Aaron Rodgers still suiting up at 43 years old. And you're
right.
Like, what's going on, man? What's going on, man? Like, he ain't retiring. He's getting a little bit worse. Or you get those players that they hit 33 and now they've lost 4 points in their speed rating because they've been regressing since they were 28. You know,
right.
So like, yeah, I think yes, this is a very dope addition, Mark.
Yeah, so this is a very dope addition, man. And Jerry said you have to realize abilities rule the game more than ratings.
But yes, and that's what with the way Matt has been recently, Mark. But the dope thing about the abilities is you have to earn them. And if you earn these abilities, let's say you get to a superstar rating, Madden only allows, they have a threshold for the amount of players in the league that can be a superstar, can be an X factor, all these things. So if you don't perform in the top amount of your position that is required for you to obtain that rating, you can have it for that season, and the next season you might be without it. So you always have to maintain it, and that's kind of the dope thing. And then that's also a slider that's been there for a couple of years now to where you can lessen the amount of superstar players that the league can have as a whole.
Okay.
So,
now, this is also important here. Free agency negotiations per stage. Commissioners can now set the number of free agents a team can negotiate with during each stage of free agency. Back when we had computer players, along with regular players, we had an issue where certain people were signing all these free agent deals or whatever like that, and we had to make it to where we had to manually say to people, you're only allowed to do this many or whatever. Now it's an actual setting that we can set and say this is that, and we don't have to we
Yeah.
don't have to monitor the transaction logs to make sure everybody's following.
Yeah, like I've seen things where somebody outbid somebody in one of the rounds, and then the next person who got outbid came back the next round, said it they were getting a message from the player saying the player's not interested at all. And then the player that outbid did the original outbidding was like, yo, I don't even want this dude. I just wanted to make sure you didn't get him. Like
Right.
there was definitely issues we were having with that. So yeah.
Yeah. So now the draft timer will now have an option to be either on or off. When on, it will function as normal, and while off, picks will not advance until they're made by the CPU or user. In addition, we've added the ability for co-commissioners to advance the draft, allowing for more flexibility if your commissioner or whoever is on the clock steps away. Remember, we had a very specific problem with this. Remember, I had to log into your account so I could control the draft.
I remember that was such a headache. And the thing that sucked about it was the draft had already started.
Right.
So then it was just kind of free flow. It was just going, and it was like, "Yo, can you stop it?" It was like, "I can't." And then like, I was doing something, and it was like, "Man, I can't do it for mine." And it's like, "You're also a commissioner, so why wouldn't you have the ability?" And it's like, "Nah, the person who starts the draft has to be able to." Yeah, and I think I can't remember what happened, but it went through a few. Somebody missed out.
It went through a few people.
Yeah.
People missed out, and we had to go back picks and shit like to.
Yeah, we did some readjustments to try to get them the
But
players that
then people were. But then the person that did make their pick and got this person, they were complaining.
Yeah, it was a mess. It was a mess. So I'm glad they're cleaning that up now. The draft was a problem for a while.
Basically, the draft generator is what we already talked about. The generational prospects and things of that nature. There's no need to really talk about that. We've already been talking for a very long time. The thing that I want to get to is the injury prone prospect. The age old saying the best ability is availability, and that's something you'll have strongly considered this year. And we included some elite prospects with one catch. They have incredibly low injury ratings. Remember, this was always a thing that we paid attention to. Like, your injury rating is really high or really low, but then you have that guy that has a really low injury rating, but for some reason never got injured. Like, and then you have a guy with a 99 injury rating, and he got injured all the time. It didn't make any, like, it just was all over the place and didn't make much sense. But it seems like they tuned that to make it actually matter. But yeah, other things to note and get into when you have a chance is relocations. Essentially, they added new cities and they added new uniforms and teams and options to the relocation ability to give it a fresh new look. So no longer do you just have to be the Dragons or the Steamers and like things of that nature. They also added new cities. Now you could be
that Anchorage, Albuquerque. Oh shit! Hey, we bringing the team to Albuquerque. Hey, say less.
You can even bring a team to Canton, Honolulu, Louisville, Kentucky, Melbourne, Australia, Montreal, Canada, Omaha, Nebraska, Paris, France, Rio de Janeiro, San Juan, Puerto Rico. Hey, matter of fact, why don't we have a Puerto Rican team? That's crazy. But Tokyo, Japan, Vancouver, Canada, and Virginia Beach. You can bring a team to the
Virginia Beach, baby. That's what I'm saying.
So obviously they changed some things to salary cap. This was a big thing as well, particularly now with the contracts, and now you can actually do contract restructuring to reduce your salary cap number and to help with managing your salary cap. And they're also added 5th year options. as well. So this adds to the realism of the game. Um, see right here it says about the 5th-year options.
Yeah.
And then this is just player value and logic improvement. Like they increase
the goofy stuff with the trades that we dealt with and all that stuff before. Yeah,
right.
Talent tree expansion.
Now here was another important thing: the talent tree expansion. Head coaches, coordinators, and player personnel now feature 3 full talent trees. With new trees came a new emphasis: choice. Most trees are now set up with an A/B pathing, where once selected, you will no longer be able to purchase talents on the other side of the tree. So this is making it a little bit more difficult and making it a little bit more personalized as a owner and as a coach.
Yeah, you have to have a focus. You have to have a direction on where you're going with your coaching staff and in your philosophy as a team. Yep.
Okay. Miscellaneous updates was ability slots, morale tuning, and scouting UI improvement. I would have loved to get into more stuff with you guys about this. We would love to get into more, but it's a lot, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing that it's a lot, that Madden has changed so much that it takes a long time to talk about this. And that's what makes Sean and I want to get back into Madden franchise, because they've actually shown franchise some love. So this will be interesting to actually get into. We obviously, years later, more kids later, logistics of how we're going to make this work out is going to
and we got
talked about.
We got a whole podcast too now. So like we got stuff going on. But let me tell you something, man. If it comes down to me deciding to play other games and to be a part of the Madden franchise experience, if it, like, for us, for what we know it to be from the past, if we can recapture what we had in the past with the Madden experience, I would be honest with you, I will choose that over any video game that I currently own right now. So
easily,
very simple. I will be making business decisions to remove myself from the other video game realms, to be honest with you. So when we were doing this, we were 1,000% dedicated to making sure we had the best quality situation with our Madden League. We wanted to we tried to make sure that everybody in the league had input on what was going on. All concerns were stuff that we listened to. We adjusted our rules. You can ask Mark. We adjusted our rules. Like, I mean, if you look at our original rule set and you looked at the end product, what we had, we adjusted the rules probably like 12, 15 times over. Yeah. Okay. So like
the rules were my personal pet product. They were my personal pet project in the league. That's what I did. So we are trying to get back to that, and essentially we still have the rules saved, so we know how to get back to it and get everything set up again.
Yeah, Madden game days of must see TV from Jerry, absolutely, or Devon, my bad, yeah. Absolutely. Just to give you guys just a little hint of the things that we talked about and what we were considering is we have the iTest network, we have a sports talk group. We get a Madden League. I don't know. We might be putting our we might have opportunities to put our iTest stamp on it. You know, you might see a Super Bowl from our league being with live commentary from the iTest crew here. You know, we don't know. These are just things that we were talking about spitballing. So
yeah, man. But we're definitely trying to get back to that, and we look forward to having that conversation later. We didn't get into NFL news today. But just very quickly, I want to say this. Jim Irsay needs to stop talking, because it seems like every time he opens his mouth, he makes things worse. That is it for our NFL news. And so, but hey, man, but
it's disrespectful when it has to be. Like, do you remember when we came up with the league awards?
Yeah,
we had awards for people that were trash. We had awards for people that were trash. If you were trash, we wanted to acknowledge it. That's all. Everybody else gets acknowledgement. Why can't you get a little acknowledgement for being garbage? I'm just saying.
Yeah. So, man, looking forward to it, guys. But that's it for us tonight. We've been here for a long time. We appreciate you for sticking it out with us. We appreciate the people that came in and left, and we understand. Been a while. We was talking for a while, but thank you. Appreciate it. Peace.
Till next time, man.
Yeah, till next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Peace.
Be there.